As promised, it is time for the Pro Football Today post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio. And we wrap up some Sunday Night Football with the Chiefs adding another W to their column, pulling this one off 22-17. But let's just say the end of that second half was nowhere near boring. We talked about it at the Pro Football Today halftime show, some of the adjustments that were going to be made. Obviously, Spagnuolo and company's ability to manage the edge, completely command the edge, also helped bring some momentum to the offensive side of the ball for the Chiefs, where they picked up 9 points, completely shutting out the Falcons any chance to pick up some offense. They tried to rally in that fourth quarter there, but let's get Tom's opinion and see what he saw in this amazing day of football and on this Sunday Night Football slate. Most importantly, if he was excited the Chiefs were able to pull off another W. Tom, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I was on the under for that game, and it was super close at the end. So, things turned out well there. As for that game specifically, we're seeing Rashee Rice just I don't want to say emerge because obviously he was with the team last year, but just continue to break onto the scene as truly an elite wide receiver and be like the go-to guy for Mahomes now. He has unseated Travis Kelce, and with the injuries to Isaiah Pacheco, I'm going to say revolving door that the Chiefs are going to have in the backfield is going to be interesting to continue monitoring going forward, but it is Rice absolutely number one for them. On the Falcons side of things, a little bit slow overall. Coming off this big game on Monday night that they won, another primetime game. They got good production out of Kyle Pitts tonight, good production out of Drake London with the touchdown, good production out of Robinson and Kirk Cousins, but nothing was over the top. And you need players to exceed and hit that next level to beat the Chiefs. So it was a good game from the Falcons. I'm not overly impressed by anything. Mooney was in the mix. I think it's pretty straightforward from them. They obviously have to kind of right the ship and start to pick up a few more wins. We had a crazy day when it came to upsets. There's a lot of injuries we can discuss. I'm ready to roll.
Yes, you are, as always, Tom. And plus, of course, the first question I had to ask you is, how did your betting card fare after another crazy day of just upsets and all the other things, as you just named, before we get ready to recap all the other big games of the day? I did want to get your opinion on a few things, starting with the Falcons offense side of the ball. They end up losing two offensive tackles, their center and one offensive tackle throughout the game. Do you think that but do you think that impacted their progressions, or were they just kind of struggling with the run game to begin with? Because I felt like they were getting some moments of success, but then Chiefs defense, they kept coming in strong. They kept applying that pressure.
Yeah, it's probably a combination of both. Obviously, injuries aren't going to help anyone. And, the outside run play that they were doing with Robinson in the first half, that was working at least a bit. And it comes down to the injuries, and then of course Spagnuolo making adjustments. So it's they probably meet in the middle. It's if they didn't have the injuries, they probably had a little more success, but ultimately, we know, there's a great defensive coordinator that can make those adjustments. So the injuries certainly don't help. So that's probably the rational way to view it. We can just view it as saying the Falcons continue to struggle at run game. They need to get things going. It's probably not the case. If you had a fully healthy offensive line, they probably would have been okay in the second half, but I still trust Spagnuolo to make in-game adjustments probably as good as anyone.
I know. You can't go against a brilliant football minds, but kind of sticking with the defensive theme here, do we give some credit to the Falcons defense at this point? Are they good? Was I crazy? I mean, Bates coming in hot, Justin Simmons being able to pick off Patrick Mahomes and making it look like something he's just going to do every season and without a problem. I mean, is it time to finally say the Falcons have found a rhythm with their defense?
I think they have, and what I said previewing the Monday night game was the Falcons defense in week one, all things considered, they looked pretty good. They held the Steelers to no touchdowns, and it was all Chris Boswell knocking down field goals. Now, I said, granted, it was Justin Fields there, a new quarterback, our quarterback on a new team, I should say. So they held them to no touchdowns. They were good against Philly at times. They obviously stepped up to control things in the second half, and they were pretty good against the Chiefs. So we're on the right track, you were on the right track about the Falcons and their defense. Now they have to have a full defensive effort and a full offensive effort for 4 quarters all at the same time, and then they can put together some wins.
Yeah, and you did mention that, and I will say I think that after, with the offense not being able to help contribute to a win and the team actually losing, it kind of overshadowed what the defense was capable of. So that's a great way to put that in sense of we've got weeks ahead of us, but I think they lived up very much to the hype and showed that they are going to be a defense to contend with. It was a lot of fun watching this Sunday Night Football matchup, but we do have to get into some upsets. We got to get into some of these massive, massive games that took a different turn than all of us expected, so you're not going to want to go anywhere. We got a quick break coming up here on Pro Football Today, so stick with us on the other side of this quick break on SportsGrid TV.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Daboll has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Daboll to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio, just breaking down the Sunday Night Football matchup between the Falcons and the Chiefs. Chiefs coming out on top 22-17, and it was a pretty fun game to watch. A lot of defensive action, a lot of big turnovers, and what a night for the safeties, but not too much more to unpack with that one. There were a number of upsets that we have got to get into, and I think the first one just has to be the Texans versus the Vikings. Vikings continue to roll with their season and picking up W's like it's not a big deal. Shake up by Sam Darnold. Another roll up to the ankle. I mean, we're seeing a lot of roll ups in these injuries. Tom, you mentioned a lot of injuries that you'll get into, but this game closes out with Stroud hitting 215 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, not really his greatest game. Darnold, before going down, 181 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, just having an electric performance. So didn't look like the Texans could really find any sort of rhythm versus this Vikings team. They looked like the most complete team today, but what did you see in this one, Tom?
The Vikings are continuing to roll, and Brian Flores, their defensive coordinator, is just causing all types of disruption in the opposing offense's flow. And we saw that for, really what is one of the best quarterbacks and wide receiver combinations that we have with the Texans. And they were just completely stifled on offense. And all credit to the Vikings. Sam Darnold, like you said, got rolled up on the ankle. They said they're going to have an MRI tomorrow. Another 4 touchdowns from him. Aaron Jones, another 100 yards on the ground. I'm most interested in the fact that Jalen Nailor, the second-string wide receiver, continues to see work with Jordan Addison out. There's now 3 straight games for Jalen Nailor with a touchdown. It's not on incredibly high volume, because they're just not passing the ball at a super high rate. But it's still interesting to note, obviously, Jefferson doing his normal thing, plenty of yards and a touchdown for him. On the other side, not a whole lot to note. I mean, Diggs had a decent game. I did mention it was a revenge game for him. 10 receptions, 94 yards is great to see. But Collins, quiet, all things considered. Tank Dell finally got a little bit involved. No Joe Mixon, and maybe that's a part of it. Their offense was a little bit, hamstrung. That Mixon wasn't there. Hopefully they can get him back into the mix. So good stuff from the Vikings. They continue to roll. They're 3-0, and they're 3-0 against the spread, which is obviously very, very important. All good things from the Vikings. The Texans, they need to get Joe Mixon back and figure things out from there.
Yeah, it's crazy how there ended up being kind of like a separation of momentum with that piece being Mixon out, because everyone's like, oh my gosh, finally it's going to be a day for Diggs. And while it was 94 receiving yards, it still wasn't enough to help this team secure a W. They struggled in the red zone. They struggled on third down efficiency. I mean, it's probably the first time that we saw the Texans have to refunction, and they weren't able to hit the refresh button and find a way to pull off the win. But speaking of a refresh button, I had the opportunity to hang out with some real diehard New Yorkers today as they rooted for the Giants, beating the Browns 21-15. And you and I were just talking about it, rookie breaking records and making it worthwhile when it comes to talking about the Giants. But talk to us about this matchup and the excitement around the wide receiving group.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors is awesome. He is going to be an option for 6-7 receptions every single week, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 yards on a touchdown every single week. Regardless of, I would think the NFL community at large thinks Daniel Jones is a below average quarterback. When you have an elite talent out there, he's going to command the ball at a high rate. His target share is going to be high. His red zone target share is going to be high. And every single week, we can look to Malik Neighbors. As long as the lines are good, as long as the value is there, we can look to him for some props. They face the Cowboys on Thursday night, which is a game we will be doing on a short week. So we'll get into that, obviously, maybe after Monday night. We can preview that, obviously, full show on Thursday for that. On the other side for the Browns, Deshaun Watson looks terrible. A great start to the game. They fumbled the ball, immediate throw to Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper was great in the game. But they have to figure something out when it comes to Deshaun Watson. And I don't know if it means bringing Jameis Winston off the bench and having him start games, but they need to figure things out quickly because their running game is not there. They're fumbling handoffs. We still know that Nick Chubb is out for however many more weeks. It is red alert time for the Browns because the Steelers aren't slowing down. The Ravens got their first win, and as soon as they get momentum, they're going to be rolling. They got Lamar going for 100, Derrick Henry going for 100. They're going to be rolling. The Bengals could pick up their first win. It is a bad time for the Browns right now at the quarterback situation.
Absolutely. I think at this point it is worth the risk of throwing in Winston. Look, at least you can get 30 touchdowns out of him in correlation to 30 interceptions. So I felt that pain as a fan and as a media member. So to say that he'd be the better option right now, it's really not a far stretch. But speaking of better options, we know that there was a lot of questions around how the Eagles were going to prevail, losing, obviously, Jason Kelce, one of the top dogs when it comes to offensive line movement. We've seen Jalen Hurts talk to his new guys a little bit on the offensive line after certain plays kind of crumble. Very slow game, but a big defensive battle between the Eagles and the Saints today. Eagles find a way to come out on top 15-12, but of course that doesn't come without a massive performance from Barkley. 147 rushing yards through 17 carries and 2 tutties. What did you see and like in this one?
I saw a lot. I'm not sure there was a whole lot that I liked. The turnovers for Jalen Hurts continue to be a problem, and you're going to see whatever the stat is, he has at least one turnover dating back to last year in 6-7 games, whatever it is. More importantly in this game, I think there's a lot of notes that, yes, the Saints offense was due for regression, and I said that was going to happen last week, and it was going to hit, and we're seeing these duds from Rashid Shaheed. He's still got those deep ball targets, which are good to see. Even though he's not bringing them in, that's fine. They're going to bounce back. The Saints offense will be fine. They have plenty of weapons overall. Everyone's fully healthy. I said Chris Olave was going to score his first touchdown. He did so. They're going to be fine. On the Eagles side, A.J. Brown didn't play for the second straight game. Devonta Smith was ruled out due to concussion. We saw Britton Covey was also ruled out. He's dealing with an injury. This means that Dallas Goedert, who had a great game for them, is going to be a huge target. This is assuming that Devonta Smith doesn't clear concussion protocol and A.J. Brown not good to go next week against the Bucs. This means that we could be seeing a big game from Dallas Goedert And we could be seeing a big game from Jahan Dotson, who they traded for right at the end of training camp. So the Eagles, while they do come away with the win, the passing game is a huge question mark right now, and it may just have to be a Saquon, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts game next week if they don't have any of these other options healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anybody who continued to hold out hope that Goddard was going to break out and break free, this was the day for you to cash in on that, because I know there was a number of times that I'm like, over 3.5 receptions, over 4.5 reception, and short by one stinking reception. And now he goes off and has a monster performance, 170 receiving yards to help his team get past the New Orleans Saints. Now, talking about a team getting past, you got Bo Nix and company that put a beating on the Bucs, 26-7. And while I have my load of excuses for the home team, I just have to let this be what it is, which means I'm going to quickly toss this to you so that I say nothing to protect my team from this beating that they very much took to the chin.
Yeah, for the Bucs, Chris Godwin still looked good, like doing his thing. He picked up right where he left off against the Lions. Slow game for Mike Evans. Bucky Irving looks good. There are some, obviously, signs of good things in the Bucs. I'm not going to say like it's any bad situation with the Bucs. They're 2-1. They're off to a very solid start this year. Obviously, a bit of a letdown game with I'm going to say a quote unquote bad team coming in at home. They're 6.5-point favorites, the Bucs that is, and they lose to a rookie quarterback who has shown us nothing over the first 2 weeks. Now, credit to the Bucs defense certainly stepping. Not the Bucs, the Broncos defense that is. The Broncos defense stepping up on the road and kind of controlling what has been a very solid offense through the first 2 weeks. 2 great wide receivers, 2 solid running backs. So the Bucs, I think they'll be fine. I'm expecting a big bounce back week for Mike Evans next week. I think they need to continue to get Bucky Irving involved. And I will say I'm not sold on what we saw from the Broncos. I'm still not buying into Bo Nix just yet. He's still going to have these interceptions. I will be still taking teams going against them just because I don't think there's a high level of consistency just yet. Long term may be a different story. Week to week, it's a lot of flux.
I can't wait for us to circle back to this and unpack and see how it rolls, because it's been a split decision between people being like, oh my God, Broncos disrespected, they're going to have over 5.5 wins. And then others are right where you're sitting, that they don't trust Bo Nix. They're not ready to give him any flowers yet. And I'm in split decision as well. Don't go anywhere. We got more massive recaps to get to here on SportsGrid TV on the other side of this break.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio. We're running through the Sunday slate between upsets, upsettingly good games, and some player prop bets that really went to town. But we're pivoting from the Broncos and the Bucs beating to, well, let's get on those Packers topping the Titans. They come out with a 30-14 victory. And besides all of the baiting of the potential return of Love, which made absolutely no sense, Tom. We talked about that. Outside of that, then you've got Willis, who comes in and has a 202 passing yard performance, 1 tutty, and then also put his legs to work with 73 rushing yards through 6 carries and another tutty to add to the tally, one to put in his own pocket. And then Christian Watson, you guys know how near and dear he is to my heart, 67 receiving yards, and that was through 2 receptions. So we're talking about a few chunk plays here for the Packers to pick up 30 points over the Titans 14. What do you see in this one, Tom?
Well, great for Malik Willis, showing up and doing it against the team that just traded him just a few weeks ago. The Packers continue to roll. Great play calling from LaFleur. Good play design overall. They have a ton of offensive options. Slow game from Josh Jacobs, all things considered, 14 for 43 on the ground. They didn't necessarily need him. The Packers defense stepped up. But I think this game's all about the other side, where the Titans are 0-3. Will Levis is a complete wild card. There are times when there were throws that Will Levis made, like he snuck a ball into like a tight window between 2 defenders, and I was like, that's a great throw. And like 3 or 4 plays before that, I was like, that was maybe the worst throw I've ever seen from Will Levis. He's going to be like this player that goes for 250 yards, may have 2 touchdowns, is almost certainly going to have a pick, and he's going to throw the ball 35 or 40 times because the Titans are trailing. And they're just completely all over the place. So the range of outcomes for Will Levis is incredibly wide, where we're going to have these turnovers, and then we're going to have like these monster deep ball throws where he's getting the receivers downfield, which he looks great, but it's like finding that level of consistency. So until there is a level of consistency, I have no trust in backing the Titans. We can't possibly be going to any of their receivers on a consistent basis. Calvin Ridley did nothing. It was a huge game for DeAndre Hopkins, but we can look back to week 1 where there's nothing from DeAndre Hopkins. Granted, he was coming off an injury at that point. And then the backfield between Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, it looks like it's going to be a Tony Pollard backfield, but their running game has no level of consistency. So credit to the Packers. They looked awesome. Will Levis is a wild card, and you just roll with the inconsistency if you want to.
It seems like the one thing you could maybe bet on when it comes to Will Levis is the interception that you mentioned. I think you said that last week. If there's something you really want to bet on, then look for the interception props when it comes to Levis, and that looks to be holding true. For another matchup that panned out for one team over another, more so Anthony Richardson and company, you got the Colts taking on the Chicago Bears, and the Colts coming out on top 21-16. I mean, regardless of Caleb Williams' passing performance, you're talking about 363 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions is going to kill you. This offensive line that he's working behind is atrocious, but what did you see in this matchup outside of that fog that he has to continue to steer through?
Yeah. Also a few bad decisions by Anthony Richardson, not just him and Will Levis, but we saw a lot of young quarterbacks today, especially in that 1 p.m. window.
Yeah.
Make a lot of bad decisions when interceptions, forcing the ball here, forcing it there, not necessarily doing it. Great game on the ground from Jonathan Taylor. He's just going to continue to be their best option. If Anthony Richardson is going to be bringing it at 100%, not 100% completion rate, but he's not going to be bringing it on a consistent basis when it comes to being efficient in the passing game. We have good passing or pass catching options from the Colts, but no one seems to be taking charge. And while Michael Pittman, I believe, is still the most talented receiver of that bunch, if they're not going to be passing at a high rate, only 20 passes for Anthony Richardson, 167 yards. There's never going to be a high volume play that we can trust from the Colts passing game. We can get a touchdown here or there. Then once they get Josh Downs fully worked back in, since this was his first game of the season, it's going to be a bit of a mystery. Jonathan Taylor's still the answer when it comes to the Colts. Caleb Williams, as I said after the Sunday night game last week, there are going to be times when he looks bad and it's no fault of his own because the offensive line is so bad. That happened again today, but he's actually overcoming some of that, where he looks good on some of these. 363 and 2 touchdowns is awesome. Big game from Rome Odunze, big game from Cole Kmet. That's what we want to see from them. Their running game is terrible, and that's partly because their offensive line is terrible. So the Bears are going to be in these wacky shootout games, and they can't run the ball. It means the ball's going to be in Caleb Williams' hands, which I think means attempt props, passing attempt props for Caleb Williams could be something I focus in on over the coming weeks because they need to pass the ball because they can't run the ball. They're trailing this, that, the other thing. They just got to let them air it out.
That's a really good thing to point out for fans to keep an eye on because it's so hard when you have that hopeful performance by Williams, and he's so consistent in that category. And as you mentioned last week as well as this week, he's faring very well. He's learning, he's adjusting, he's doing his part, but he can only do so much behind this offensive line. So attempts is definitely a worthwhile thing to keep an eye on and probably to work your bets on because he's going to continue to do the work and move through. Speaking of a team that's trying to continue to do the work, but this time they're trying to work against injuries, which is always the name of the game when it comes to the Chargers. But Chargers fall short by 10 points to the Steelers. Steelers take this one 20-10. What'd you see in this one?
Coming into this game, obviously a bit of a mystery with Justin Herbert that he announced on Friday that he had a high ankle sprain. And I said this last week on Thursday, and this is just a gripe I have, I guess, is like he got hurt on Sunday. They had a full week of practice, and they didn't report that he had a high ankle sprain because, like, a high ankle sprain is a specific diagnosis. They said he was limited throughout the week with an ankle injury. They knew he had a high ankle sprain on Sunday night or Monday, and they didn't report that until Friday. That's a problem. Goes out and he gets hurt again. Now they're in a situation where they do not have a viable quarterback. Easton Stick or the third string is Taylor Heineke. Like, they are not going to be in a good spot going forward. They can try and rely on J.K. Dobbins, but it's not going to be sustainable going forward. Yes, Quentin Johnson had another touchdown, a couple yards, but if they have backup quarterbacks in there, there's going to be no value in the Chargers offense. Credit to the Steelers. T.J. Watt, that defense looks amazing. Justin Fields, they're rolling on everything right now. They're 3-0. All great things for the terrible towels right now. They are just rolling.
The terrible towels. But, yeah, you got a point. I mean, a lot of people thought it was going to be the run game for the Chargers, but this is a top-notch defense when it comes to the Steelers, and they've proven that one way or another with that 3-0. Stick with us here on SportsGrid TV as we got another break coming up.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio. And we're just breaking down another one of the most interesting games as the Chargers continue to work through their injuries and fall short to the Steelers today. So Steelers continue to roll, and with that being said, Dolphins appear to be folding. They fall short to the Seahawks today. Seahawks take a victory 24-3. They could not find the end zone one time. And I mean, this was the Seahawks game from start to finish. But what did you see in this one, Tom?
It is getting late early for the Dolphins and their season. Not expecting Tua to be back next week. I believe they've by week 6 it is, week 5 or 6. So maybe he's out 1 or 2 more weeks. Then he comes back. Like, that should be the plan. Skylar Thompson, their backup quarterback, got hurt. He's dealing with a rib issue. They brought in Tim Boyle. Their offense looks completely inept right now. Devon Achane should be the go-to guy for them, but it is getting I don't want to sit here and say, like, oh, if you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Watt on your fantasy teams, you need to trade them. But it is getting to a point, it's like, I don't know how they're going to be able to consistently get the ball and consistently rack up yards because they have bad quarterbacks. They're going to have like 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks playing at this point. So it is extremely tough to trust anything. On the other side, it was all Seahawks. Like you said, it was Zach Charbonnet in the backfield, who looks great. Another 20-plus combined total touches. Now, this is only because Kenneth Walker was out this week. He was out last week. If Kenneth Walker comes back, he should be the lead guy. But when we're seeing this level of production from Zach Charbonnet, over 20 total touches, over 100 combined yards, finding the end zone, that's what I'd like to see. I want to see him out there. Now, granted, Kenneth Walker is great. Hopefully they find a bit of a split so we can find a bit of value in the props when it comes to Zach Charbonnet. Yes, we saw a big game out of DK Metcalf doing his thing. The issue that I have is Jackson Smith and Njigba, 3 for 39. And granted, this is part of the game script where they didn't have to pass the ball, but we're never going to see big games from Lockett, from Metcalf, and from JSN all on the same day. So if you were on JSN today, like, you got the bad end of the stick, and like DK Metcalf just went for a huge game. So I'm a little bit hesitant on offenses like this, where it's like, Tyler Lockett's also not going to have a massive game when last week when Lockett didn't have a big game last week when Metcalf and JSN both went for over 100. Now JSN is at the bottom. So it's a bit of a mystery when it comes to the Seattle wide receiving core, but there are still spots to find value.
Yeah, absolutely. And just monster catch after monster catch for Metcalf today. I mean, again, they're going against a Dolphins team that's trying to figure it out, but you can't take away credit from how effectively and efficiently they're able to get down the field. And I love that you point out Walker. Maybe he's the guy to get them down the field, and then the 1-2 punch being the alternate or running back 2 be the guy in the red zone that you go to. And I think they can find success in that. Speaking of finding your guy for success, you got Andy Dalton that appeared to be the answer for the Panthers. I didn't have this on my bingo card for the day, but that's fine. I'm never going to root against Andy Dalton. I think that once upon a time, he was a guy worth rooting for day in and day out. But Panthers come out on top 36-22, and Raiders and company, more so head coach Antonio Pierce, pretty pissed off by this victory by the Panthers. What say you on this one?
Well, good for Andy Dalton. Like, coming off the bench, getting the start, 300 plus 3 touchdowns. Now, we did see Adam Thielen get hurt in this game, but big game from Deontay Johnson. Chuba Hubbard, huge game from him. All credit to them for like rallying around, Dalton coming in. It's like they're also rallying around Bryce Young in capacity. It's like, hey, we still want to put together a good performance. I will say this, like, doesn't necessarily look good for Bryce Young, considering it's the same offense and they move the ball. Now, if people have their thoughts about the Raiders defense, they don't think they're great, and it was like the perfect spot for Andy Dalton to be the starter and for them to come away with the victory. I understand that. But if this is going to be the case going forward, Andy Dalton, he can still sling it. So do I expect 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every single game? No, of course not. On the other side, a bit of all over the place. Like you said, not the best reception for the players and Antonio Pierce after the game. Running game is basically non-existent for the Raiders. Minshew looked great against the Ravens. He didn't look great here. Are they going to trade Devontae Adams? They're going to still get Jacoby Myers involved. Like, Brock Bowers didn't have the best game, all things considered. So it's a mystery for the Raiders, and it's kind of a ray of optimism for Andy Dalton and the Panthers right now.
I'd say so, especially because you made a good point. I mean, the Raiders defense, it's not like they went out there and just played terrible. I mean, Marcus Epps had himself quite the day, 10 tackles total, and then Dalton had a weather 2.5 sacks throughout that whole show. So a lot to still unpack for the recaps of the day. Don't go anywhere. Continue to hang out with Tom and myself here on Pro Football Today, the post-game show here on SportsGrid TV. We recap a few more, and then we start previewing the exciting games ahead. Maybe we'll talk about the doubleheader coming up, so go nowhere.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Pro Football Today, the post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio, as we run the Sunday slate and continue to talk about upsets. So while Andy Dalton may have found a little redemption today, so could possibly be said about the Rams, who pulled off a stunner versus the 49ers, taking them out 27-24. I did not have this one on my bingo card, Tom, but what did you see in this matchup?
Yeah, this game was absolutely unbelievable. I think that there are two main storylines in this one. One, or I should say three. One, the collapse of the 49ers, or you want to say the comeback of the Rams, either side of that. Two, Kyren Williams is the offense for the Rams right now with no one else healthy. He had 3 touchdowns today. And then on the other side, what a game from Juwan Jennings. 11, 175, and 3 touchdowns is absolutely unbelievable. We know that Debo's not there. We know George Kittle's not there, and CMC is not there. I was expecting more from Brandon Ayuk to have his first big game of the season, but Juwan Jennings, what a performance from him. I would say moving forward, be careful with some of his lines. I think there are times that his lines will be inflated just because he's going to be so publicly bet that, oh, Debo's still not there and George Kittle's still not there. Everyone's going to be flooding in on Juwan Jennings, and it's going to leave some openings for some of these other players. So that's one thing I would note. Brandon Ayuk, slow game from him. I still expect him to bounce back. Jordan Mason, solid game from him. Didn't hit the 100 mark, the 100-yard mark as a lot of people were expecting. I think carries is probably still the best route to go for Jordan Mason. When it comes to the Rams, if it's not Kyren Williams, I don't know who we can possibly trust. Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, Colby Parkinson, Tyler Johnson, all getting involved in some capacity, but no one at a consistent rate behind Kyron Williams. It's like he's A, and then everyone else is like not even B. They're all like C. So I don't have interest in the Rams outside of Kyron Williams.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially because I was one of those people who thought that Tyler Johnson's reps and success and ability to help this team out was going to probably stride a little bit further than it did, but you can't walk away from a game like this with only 20 receiving yards and be impactful. So I have seen that up close. Tyler Johnson can be impactful, but sometimes, you said it perfectly with Will Levis, he can be a bit of a wild card, which I think hints to why sometimes they rely on him in games and sometimes they just kind of leave him out of the lineup. Or not out of the lineup, but out of reliability. Talking over to the Lions versus the Cardinals. Lions able to get back in the W column, 20-13. They topped the Cardinals today. What was a great one between this one, because Goff doesn't touch 200 yards, but he was just 1 yard short ever so slightly. Montgomery having a massive ground game, and you've talked about St. Brown here on Pro Football Today a number of times. So break this one down for me, Tom.
This was like the perfect game plan for the Lions to right the ship and bounce back, where they have two awesome running backs, 23, 105 and 1 from Montgomery, 1683 from Gibbs. Obviously, Gibbs with the lateral play with St. Brown. I running it in. It wasn't a catch, but he ran the ball in after the lateral. Goff was efficient, 18 of 23 for 199, like you said, 2 touchdowns. This is like the exact game plan that they needed. And, their defense kept things under control. Big game from Amon-Ra St. Brown. The big news for this is that Sam Laporta, their star second-year tight end, was hurt. He's dealing with an ankle injury. He was carted to the locker room at the end of the game. We saw a complete disappearance from Jameson Williams in this game. Granted, it was a little bit of the game script. Who steps up to fill this void? Now, Brock Wright is their second-string tight end, and he has played on their team for a few seasons now, so the familiarity with the offense is there. Will he be the solidified now starting tight end, and will that role play a high rate of involvement in the passing game is what I'm most interested in. So if it's not going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown in the passing game, who's going to be after it? It could be Jameson Williams in a bounce back. We know those home run balls are always going to be there for him. On the Cardinals side of things, Marvin Harrison Jr. continues to be awesome. What we get from Kyler Murray, I think, are going to be a high volume of passing. I think the inefficiency will still be there overall. I think they need to have more of a balance and get James Conner continuously involved in the offense. It can't all be Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride as the 1-2 for the Cardinals. So great stuff from the Lions. They are still one of the best teams in the league, and I still think they continue to push towards the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed like there was a little bit of panic there for the Cardinals, and they kind of fared away from Connor and his ability to punch through. Him walking out with only 17 rushing yards on the day. So I think you're completely right. You got to continue to utilize all of your weapons in the arsenal. This one turned, no surprise here, this one turned into a bit of a dramatic affair. You've got the Ravens and the Cowboys, but it was do or die for both of these teams because, boy, oh boy, have we just seen death for both of these teams in the beginning of the season. Lamar Jackson, 182 passing yards, 1 tutty, but it was the Derrick Henry show that helped the Ravens come out on top 28-25. And as for the Dallas Cowboys side of things, it's not a good look when you got your quarterback and your wide receiver going at it on the sidelines in an intense exchange. Both guys got their paydays. What could possibly still be broken when it comes to the Cowboys? This is a question I feel like we'll be asking forever and ever. But break this one down for me, Tom, because wow, did this one offer entertainment popcorn and all the things that anybody could ever hope and dream for.
Yeah, what an ending to this game. If you told me that Dak Prescott was going to have 379 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, and 1 rushing touchdown, I would have told you the Cowboys probably win that game. CeeDee Lamb probably had well over 100 yards if that was the case. But that's not the case. Their defense is terrible. There's literally no other way to put it. If the Saints go there and they hang 40 whatever points they had last week, the Ravens run all over them with Derrick Henry for 151, Lamar for 87, even Justice Hill, 5 of 33 on the ground. Like, that's an efficient third-string running back running all over them. Something's wrong with the Cowboys' defense. We saw a very modest passing game from Lamar. I'll be honest, I was on him over 216 passing yards. He had 161 at halftime. I thought I was cruising towards the over, and he hits the under. All things considered, we have to know that the Cowboys play the Giants on Thursday night. We saw what Derek Carr and the passing offense of the Saints did to them last week. We saw, granted, an efficient game. Malik Neighbors for the Giants on Thursday night against the Cowboys. That's what this all comes down to. Lamar was super efficient. Carr had these deep ball shots to Rashid Shaheed. They dropped 40 on them. Malik Neighbors on Thursday night is the answer to all of this.
That's exactly where I was going with this. So that was a perfect pivot, Tom. How do we gauge what the Cowboys have coming up next? The Giants are going to be riding a high after topping the Browns today. And as we talked about, you got a rookie in Neighbors that's just putting on a show. Not to mention is that he has got all of the stars aligning for him to continue to prevail when it comes to helping out the Giants offense. So that's Thursday Night Football. Tom and I'll probably break that down a little bit further on tomorrow's post-game show here on Pro Football Today. But as we begin to look ahead, we talk about a Panthers team that feels like they have the answer behind Andy Dalton, and now they're taking on a Bengals team who we don't really know what to identify in terms of how their offense is going to perform and how their defense is going to show up. So how do you foresee this matchup going down?
This is really interesting because we're jumping ahead a week when the Bengals play tomorrow night, and we still have to get through that game. So I will give a little general thoughts about the Bengals. What do we get from T. Higgins? He's going to play. He's not on the injury report. Does it take time for their offense to meld? Because this is essentially like week one for them, where week one started off super slow, and it happens for a lot of teams. But now T. Higgins is involved in the mix, so they need to figure things out of Chase on a full snap count and T. Higgins getting fully involved. Now can they make the offense move? So I think the game tomorrow night versus the Commanders is actually like a good test of what we could see versus the Panthers, because if the Bengals get rolling tomorrow night and we see that offense against the Panthers got torn apart by Derek Carr in week one, and that passing offense could be on full display. So it's a little weird. Like, we have the lines out for next week's games, but the Bengals haven't even played yet, and we don't know what the Bengals are going to bring us on offense. But I still think it's going to be a good spot for the Bengals, especially if there's a kind of a letdown spot tomorrow night. They could really excel against the Panthers.
Yeah, they're probably the new team that sits in that do or die category. And as you pointed out, tomorrow is going to tell us a lot coming ahead here. But I did find it interesting that they are already looking a week-ish ahead. But we've got more to get into, and we kind of touched on the fact of the Saints. We got the Saints taking on the Falcons that we'll get further into. So don't go anywhere. We got Pro Football Today post-game show. We've got another quick break coming up, so stick with us on the other side of this break here on SportsGrid TV.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all strong, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio, as we run through previewing the upcoming games. Talked a little bit about the Bengals, Panthers. Tom made a great point that we've got to see the Bengals in action tomorrow night, so we'll be able to gauge further from there. But the lines are open and trying to tell us a few things. But then let's pivot over to the Saints versus Falcons. We saw the Falcons put up a pretty good fight versus the Chiefs. There were some parts of the game that held them back, but obviously losing two of your offensive linemen is not ideal. Outside of that, we have a Saints defense that's been talked about so much this season, that the Eagles were able to overcome them for their own personal victory today. So what can we look forward to when it comes to the Saints taking on the Falcons?
At first look for this one, 45.5 over under, 1.5 point favorites the Falcons are at home. I love the under. Like we got to think about this in terms of, yeah, it's week 4, but we have to start like projecting forward what's going to happen. Falcons win this game, they would be 2-2, and the Saints would be 2-2. So the Saints, after this flying hot start that they got off to 90 some odd points in the first 2 weeks, they would come crashing back down to earth. And that means the Falcons will be tied for them. And the Bucs are playing the Eagles. So, like, this has to be a defensive-minded game for both of these teams, because the Saints don't want to blow this, like, good lead that they had to start the season. And like we said, like, the Saints defense is good, and the Falcons defense actually has, like, these signs of life that they are a solid defensive unit all around. So I don't see a whole lot of scoring in this game. I'd be interested in a combined Kamara under rushing plus receiving, under on Olave, under on Drake London. Like, I want to be on all the unders now. Rashid Shaheed is a dangerous player to take unders on because he can hit those home run balls, but I'm seeing a lack of scoring in this game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one, especially if the Falcons come into this matchup without those two offensive tackles being able to help out. They're going to try to see how they can control the clock better, which means slower game, usually means under that total. We got the Jaguars versus the Texans. Texans are looking to get back in the W column, but the Jaguars are not a team to be underestimated against whatsoever, and I'm pretty sure this is an in-division battle as well, which intensifies the matchup. What do you see for this one?
I'm leaning on the over 45.5. I would expect the Texans to bounce back at home. Partly, I'd say this maybe partly depends on the Joe Mixon news. Like, does the week off help him? Does he get back out there? Is he going to be a full go? Even if it's not him, can they actually get Dameon Pierce involved? That'd be a bit of a step up instead of having Cam Akers and Dario Gumbawale out there. It's just like, I don't know, it's just my personal opinion. I think Dameon Pierce is a solid running back. So waiting on that injury note, can they continue to get Tank Dell and Steph Diggs and Nico Collins all involved in the same game? That would be my biggest takeaway from this game. I think I would look towards the Texans team total. Once those are posted, first half team total, like they want to come out flying, get the offense moving. Like, that's my initial kind of preview for that game.
I like that a lot. I'm actually very much on top of that one. Now, I don't want to disrespect any Jets fans. You've probably heard this before, Tom. The Jets say that they are really good. They feel like this is their year. They're very enthusiastic about what they recently just saw, and you've got them hosting the Broncos coming up here. Broncos ended up stunting the Buccaneers, but Jets looking to build off of not only the success and the momentum that they just had. So can they do it? Can Jets fans continue to ride their happiness through another week?
I think so. Now, does that mean I want to lay -7.5 with the Jets? Probably not. Maybe if that number moves a little bit to 7, 6.5 throughout the week, maybe. It may never get there. That's also a very strong possibility. Under 38.5 looks the most enticing. Rodgers having another efficient game is probably something that I will continue to look towards. Will Mike Evans have his first touchdown of the season? We saw him get the ball knocked away in the Thursday night game. The Jets are coming off this little bit extra rest, which is nice. I think the answer in this game is a Bo Nix interception prop. That's what I think this comes down to. I'm not laying it 7.5, but I do think the interception prop is probably where I'll look. All things considered, it's probably just Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, as I discussed the other night, and that's it. It's probably going to be a bad watch.
I will say, whenever you feel like taking an interception prop, whenever you mention it to fans, it's very much worthwhile that you stick to that and then you hop on Tom mentioning it whatsoever. So that is an enticing thing if you foresee or potentially see a Bo Nix turnover because, well, we're going to see if he can live up to the hype, that's for sure. We take it to a battle of the North, Vikings versus the Packers. This is going to be a fantastic game. We can see how the Vikings will weather the storm, whether or not they have to revert back to another quarterback as the answer to help their offense continue to charge through. Packers, please do not allude to any sort of love stuff. Like, let's just keep this serious. Let's keep him healthy. Let's look down the line here. But what do you see going on with this Battle of the North?
I would say if you like the Packers, it's probably the time to bet them is now at 2.5. Now, this is solely depending on if you like the Packers, that's A, and B, you think Jordan Love will play. Because if Jordan Love plays, this number's not going to stay at 2.5. It may move to 3, 3.5, and that's a big difference. A 3.5 versus a 2.5 is a huge difference, that passing that key number. So if you like the Packers and you think Jordan Love will play, it's probably the time to bet them now. You can take them at minus 2.5. I think that's a solid bet. Like you said, are they going to push him back? Is he actually ready to go? If he plays, is he actually 100%? Like, there's 1,000 questions we could be answering ourselves. Also, Sam Darnold needs this MRI that he's supposed to be getting on Monday because he had that low hit. So, like, there's a chance that we're not dealing with fully healthy quarterbacks on either side. If that were to be the case, Aaron Jones' revenge game going up against his former team, the Packers. He's just coming off this big game. If Sam Darnold's not good to go, Jones finding the end zone in Lambeau, like, there's a lot of fun storylines in this one. But the quarterback questions are the main concern. So I like under 44.5, and I kind of like the Packers if Love is going to play.
Yeah, I like that too. I think Jones continues to roll when it comes to the Vikings, but I will say this, Vikings defense has proven to be very problematic. If Love is anywhere below 80%, I wouldn't risk it, especially if the Packers want a chance to fight this one through all the way to the end. We've got one more rally to go where we can continue to look at games ahead, get you guys prepared for the lines and odds. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Pro Football Today, the post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio, as we get everything ready for you. And then also don't forget to join us tomorrow for the pregame party here on SportsGrid TV. So stick with us on the other side of this break.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all strong, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio. We are running through some previews that you're going to want to keep your eye on, and one that we have to talk about before we close out tonight's post-game show. Before getting ready to be back here for the pre-game party for Pro Football Today, make sure all of you guys are tuning in to hang out with us, me, Tom, Adam, and Dave. Steelers, Colts, you mentioned the fact that you saw good things out of the Colts running game, obviously, but you didn't see all of the spectacular when it came to Richardson's game. So how is he going to fare versus a Steelers team that's looking to continue to add to the W column? But most importantly, their defense is a force to be reckoned with.
Right. When you said one game we have to touch on, I assumed it was going to be the Bucs-Eagles game, but besides
nope,
the
we're
point,
not going there.
If Richardson brings this level of inconsistency, TJ Watt is going to have a field day. And that means the Steelers could easily be 4-0 after next week. They're 1.5-point road favorites, minus 160 on the money line, 38.5 over under. It means that a Richardson interception prop is very viable. A Steelers defensive touchdown is very viable. The Colts would have to run the ball at such an efficient rate to keep moving the chains that like TJ Watt doesn't have the chance to go after the quarterback when Richardson is scrambling. So it would have to be a big Taylor game, but there's just such variability with Richardson that it presents such an opportunity for turnovers, which can lead to that touchdown, which is at 7-1 the Steelers defense is going to be at. That's my initial takeaway. Steelers defense might be one of my favorite bets next week.
Yeah, honestly, and it's just crazy that it's one specific guy that just continues to be the ultimate force to be reckoned with. But you don't carry the Watt name lightly by any means, especially when you're talking about some football. All right, guys, I'm a mature adult, so we're going to do this thing. Let's break down the Eagles versus the Bucs. What is their look forward here as the Eagles get their escape past the Saints? Bucs kind of crumble when it goes to the Broncos, but they're still a pretty stacked team. They are dealing with a lot of injuries. It's not me making excuses. They lost a lot of key pieces on their defense, unfortunately, starting in week 1, and that continued to roll bad luck-wise throughout week 3. So what do you see in this one?
Certainly looking to the under as well, under 46.5. Again, it comes back down to if the Eagles aren't able to operate on offense effectively, if A.J. Brown doesn't play, he's already missed 2 games, and Devonta Smith, who has a concussion, needs a clear concussion protocol before this game. Missing 2 wide receivers is detrimental to your offense. Yes, we can expect good things from Dallas Goedert. He can be involved in Saquon, but that only goes so far to a certain point. So that's my initial lean right now. Obviously, it's solely depending on that injury news. If A.J. Brown's ready to go and Devonta Smith clears concussion protocol, we could see points flying in this game left and right, especially if we see the version of the Bucs offense that we saw the first 2 weeks. We will have 4 elite wide receivers in this game. We could have points flying. So my initial lean is based on the injuries, and that's on the under. I will continue to look to Rachaad White or Bucky Irving combined rushing plus receiving. I think there's an opportunity for them out of the backfield if the Bucs are forced into a passing game script and the Eagles are putting the pressure, as we saw a little bit against Carr today. Those short, quick passes to White or Irving will be the route for Baker Mayfield to go.
Ooh, I like that. It's not as detrimental as I thought it was going to be, Tom, but that's why you are the expert in breaking down both sides here. And probably one of the last games that we should get into for sure is going to be the Bills versus the Ravens. Can the Ravens stack on top of a big performance versus the Cowboys today? Can they use any of that momentum to go against a Bills team and Josh Allen that you just cannot count out just yet?
I love the Bills right now at plus 2.5. If this is where it's going to stay, if it moves to plus 3, and if the Bills look okay tomorrow night, granted this line is before their game tomorrow night versus Jacksonville. So let's say the Bucs kind of look a little bit up and not the Bucs, the Bills. The Bills look a little bit up and down. Maybe they come up with a very modest victory, they don't cover. It's a sloppy game. That line moves to 3 next week against the Ravens. I'm going to love that line at plus 3 for the Bills next week. So I'm waiting on this one. I'm actually jumping ahead on the Packers. As I said, I want to get that in minus 2.5 before the Jordan Love news. We have a ton to get to for both games tomorrow. We'll be right back here at 6 or so for the pregame. I'm going to be ready for that.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have a time with that one. As I mentioned earlier, if you guys do not watch the Pro Football Today pregame show or pregame party, because it is a party between myself, Tom, Adam, and Dave, then you want to make sure you join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. for the show as we break down both of the Monday Night Football games. And then we've got the postgame show with myself and Tom yet again. And as we run through the Monday night slate, we will start to continue to look ahead, see if lines change. But we're going to keep you up to date on all of the info, insight, and analytics. So make sure you join us tomorrow, 6 p.m. right here on SportsGrid TV. As for tonight's Pro Football Today post-game show, it's a wrap for myself and Tom. Tom, thank you so much, as always, for bringing your expertise to the table. Everybody have a safe night. We will see you tomorrow.